I love Spider-Man, and I've played a bunch of Spider-Man games, and games where Spidey's actually featured as well. But there's always been one game that eluded me, so almost 20 years later, I finally sat down and played it. So let's get into the Ultimate Spider-Man. I love these older Marvel comic intros. They give me so much nostalgia. This theme, on the other hand, is just the epitome of early 2000s superhero music. And the music throughout this game carries this whole vibe as well. Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This game was released for Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube, and published by Activision and developed by Treyarch, which you might have heard of before. In it, Peter and Brock's dads were actually scientists who, in the process of developing a cure for terminal illnesses, accidentally create the Venom symbiote, or the suit as they call it. This attaches itself to a host and heals itself, along with granting them awesome superhero abilities. The dads were tricked into selling it to Trask Industries and short after die in a plane crash, so Eddie and Peter inherit the suit. Peter tries it out, and not even him with his already spider powers can handle the suit. Eddie finds out Peter used it and he gives it a go, and well, Venom is born. So now Venom is kind of running loose New York City, and Peter, Trask's hired guns, and even S.H.I.E.L.D. are trying to track Venom down. The game is based on the Marvel comic of the same name, and it adopts the comic book art style very well. I did love these comic book covers during loading screens, and I enjoyed very much the comic book transitions, but not only during the cutscenes, they also appear while you're playing to show you sometimes what the bosses are doing. And with these graphics, it's very easy just to buy in the fact that you're just playing a comic book because of how cartoony the features are, and they honestly work very nicely with Spider-Man. Yes, they are pretty bad pop-ins, especially while you're web swinging, but I've actually seen way worse in modern games. Peter's voice actor sounds pretty young, and he mentions that he's 15, and I buy it. It's classic Spidey, which is what I want. He's talking smack while fighting, as he should, and some of the dialogue did give me a few unexpected chuckles. They do drop a lot of names from the Marvel universe. There are a lot of cameos that I wasn't expecting to be in the game either. I mean, you got Wolverine and you got the Human Torch. For me, these were the best ones, and you get to see them in the first 45 minutes of the game. I will say this New York feels a tad less New Yorky than other games. While there are cars and people walking around, it ultimately did feel a little empty to me. And since it has open world elements, you get to see as much of the city as you like. There are 190 tokens scattered throughout the city, along with a ton of dots with activities to do. You got combat tours that have you running around chasing down a group of bad guys to beat, and races where, well, you race against the clock and touch these separate points. And every once in a while, a city event pops up where you have to save a civilian from a carjacking, falling from a building, a mugging, etc. And completing all these will get you costumes. In between each story mission, they kind of force you to do a couple of city events before the main story mission even opens up. During some of the game's story missions, you will be playing as Venom as well, and once you beat the game, you will have the ability to switch heroes whenever you want, and this gives Venom his own races as well. More on the races in a second. Peter covers a lot of ground with his jumps, like a lot, and you can also double jump, which is nice. You can punch, kick, and you have Spidey senses. There isn't a dodge button or anything, you just have to jump and move out of the way yourself. Spidey also has web shooters to tie enemies up, so while you're fighting the little lackeys, you kind of have to stick them to the floor or they just get back up and keep coming. Venom also punches, but instead of him kicking, he stretches out his tentacles for like a longer range hit. Venom also takes more damage than Spidey, I think because he actually doesn't have Spidey sense. So to recover, he has to feed for health, and you come to find this out in a real messed up way. So that's it, you just have two buttons for attacks, and because of that, I almost felt the combat to be repetitive. Maybe because of the switching between Spidey and Venom, or maybe because the game is so short. If you just strictly stick to the story, you can beat it in less than 5 hours. So for that reason, the combat really didn't feel super repetitive, but looking back, it definitely is. Also, some sort of special ability or a cool attack was desperately missing, but even without that, I can say that the combat is pretty fun. It's okay. As you progress, Spidey gets little upgrades here and there, like the amount of attacks he can do in a single combo and swinging speed, but actually none of it is like too noticeable. They can both climb up buildings and pull themselves towards any object they want, but the traversal with Venom is more controlled. He jumps far, kind of like the Hulk does, and the web swinging with Spidey at times was an issue for me. I know some people love the swinging here, and I know that some people hate it, and I'm kinda with the side that hated it. Honestly, I'm in the middle, because it's only at certain times. So you web swing by pressing and letting go of the trigger button. You can boost, and you can climb up the web too. This web swinging is more momentum based, and it matters how high up on the web you are. Plus, it pulls Spidey in the direction that the web is attached to, which makes sense, but it can be tough if you're just trying to go in a straight line. So it's tough to try and guess what side of the building the web is going to stick on sometimes. So yes, it's a little chaotic, but ultimately it's manageable. It's not unplayable, but it did lead me to rage a few times. It's because of how specific the game wants you to be at times, and with these kind of controls it's very hard to be super spot on specific, especially in the races. The races start out pretty plain: go here, go there, come back, beat the clock. I ultimately recommend beating the whole game, then coming back and doing the races later, because the time it takes you to beat the game, you become more familiar and feel more comfortable with the web swinging. So with the races, this is where Johnny comes in. So each time you complete a few of these race challenges, you have to race him. And for the life of me, I could not beat him on the second race. Look at it. It just pissed me off so much. So I kind of ignored the races completely because of this race. And after I beat the game, I kind of tried it a couple more times, and finally this happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
So when I did rage quit the Johnny Storm race, I was like, okay, I don't have to worry about it. It's just going to be in the races. But unfortunately, there are a lot of chase story missions that are very similar, and these induced a lot of rage for me because, again, of how unreliable I felt the swinging was. At least for me. Again, feel free to let me know how you felt about it down in the comments. Like, it wouldn't stitch to where I wanted it to be a lot of times, and the range was also off to me. It would stick on sometimes, and others it wouldn't stick, and you're just falling until you find something that it will stick to. Plus, these chase missions can be pretty unforgivable because you make one wrong turn, which is very easy to do, especially with these web controls. They call it off that you failed. Like, look at this clip right here. This was bullshit. He's right there. I can see this fool on the map. I can still catch him. He's in range. He's one or two web swings away of me being back in the race. And no, they called me off. This one really pissed me off because this one took me a little bit. So yeah, there's a lot of chase missions, and I wish there were more missions where they were chasing me instead. There's only one of them where you play as Venom and they're kind of chasing you, but not really. It's not really what I wanted, but I did wish that half of the chases were at least the other way around. So at first, the back and forth between Spidey and Venom can be a bit weird. I remember very early on, I was on my way to a mission as Spidey, and he's like,
I gotta go pick up my check at the Daily Bugle.
And then you start the mission and it's nighttime and I'm Venom now. So story-wise, it can be a bit goofy and weak at times, but it's still cool to play as both Spidey and Venom nonetheless. At least we get to see Peter's dad and not Uncle Ben like we always do, so that was different and I like that very much, even though that he dice. Other than those chase missions, the other main missions are actually pretty fun. I will say though that the first few story missions are the best in my book. I mean, as Venom you fight Wolverine, and as Spidey you face off against Rhino, and the entirety of those missions are kind of cool. They didn't feel phoned in, they feel creative, and they mix in some of the other stuff like saving people while you're chasing them down, which is also done in some of the other missions. But the Rhino battle was more than just run around, dodge, and then come back and punch them, which is what you kind of do in most of the other ones. Yes, you do that in the Rhino one too, but the fact that there was a little extra thing in his back made it cool, I guess. So not every story mission is a banger is what I'm trying to say. There's a couple duds here and there, but the game does start out pretty strong, and honestly that was my thoughts for the whole game. It starts out really strong, then the second act was a little meh, and then it picks up a little bit towards the final act. I also wish that the final battle was a bit more flashier, but it's okay. It's not bad. Even though it does feel like I'm bitching about this game, and I do feel like the game felt short in a lot of areas, somehow it still managed to be an enjoyable experience for me, except for those rage-inducing chase levels. And I'm actually very glad that I gave this game a chance all these years later. It could be because I'm a massive Spider-Man fan. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this game and any other Spider-Man game. Speaking about Marvel games, do you think the whole game is better than the movie? Well, I've got the answer for you in this video right here. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching, and remember to always and forever, you do you.
he go? No, seriously.